I was living in Tokyo for about a decade.
Yeah.
I was doing corporate recruitment there for
Nice.
companies that were international. So basically, companies that were coming from like Germany, America, wherever, wanted to set up
Right.
base in Japan. So startup type vibe, but from like
Nice.
a larger organization, then grow that over a few years, or the opposite, a Japanese company needing bilingual talent to go overseas.
Nice.
And so um, the coolest thing about that in terms of money, right, was, well, money and experience in terms of like, I don't know, just understanding like the normal average everyday world of the corporate world is just a bunch of bullshit,
Yeah.
you know? You just see companies and you see careers of people, you see stories, and you're just like, okay, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to be
Right.
55 years old, kicked out of a company, have no, financial standing except for what you saved in your 401k, and if inflation ate it all away, you
Right.
know. So like,
Exactly.
yeah, I learned a lot about business there and a lot about money.
I completely agree with you, and I think there's something to be learned there. I say this, and I think it's really true, and you just said it. If you're in a certain field, if you want to know what your future is going to look like, just look at the guy 20 years in front of you
Yeah.
and
Right.
expect that you're no more talented and
Yep.
that he worked just as hard and had just as much piss and vinegar at 25 as you do.
Yep.
And that is what is going to happen to you within 8 to 10%.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you're not absolutely in love with that dude's life, you better go create something else.
Yeah.
And I can say that I did that quite a bit when I was younger. I was looking around and I'm like, you know what? Don't want that. Don't want
Yeah.
that. I need to at least take a shot at this because
Yeah.
I can live with that life.
Well,
Even
that's
if
why I
miss-
went so hard on crypto, because before
Right.
crypto, I didn't understand shit about money. Like I understood
Yeah.
some, but like I didn't have
Yeah.
more than like $5,000 to my name at any given point, for longer than like a month.
Right.
Like I'd get, bonuses and stuff, but you'd be spending them and everything, right? So it's like crypto I think is for like just the next probably, well, this entire century, right? But just in terms of like the pivot to the digital age, right? Like basically millennials, Zoomers, and then after that, those three generations are the ones who are basically going to take the baton on finance and bring it to basically, the modern age. Because I mean, as you know, like banks are just ass backwards, in terms of their tech and everything. So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
but
So-
like, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just, yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
So,
like, what kind of trends? Because like you have to understand like where money's flowing and like where you're putting your different income streams and like how that affects your business and everything. Like, what tools and tricks of the trade do you use there to kind of understand kind of where to place your bets on that?
yeah, so for me, I've been investing, like just putting money away with my guy at Jones since I was 25. Now, I know that they're probably not technically a fiduciary the way they should be, and I know that the return is not, but it was all I knew at the time.
Okay.
Now I'm more paying attention to where kind of the debt cycles are when I'm buying real estate. So I just got accepted on another big deal, another 60 units for us this week. So
This is the one you were telling me about on the phone.
yeah,
Yep,
so it's actually a trailer park,
Nice.
60 units.
Trailer parks are great.
Trailer
Cap
parks
rate.
are a bad
Consistent.
boy. Yeah,
Fuck,
bad
they're
boy.
consistent,
Well,
right?
yeah, and the depreciation's good.
Okay.
Really good. It's actually
Interesting.
better. So we bought 64 units. Actually in the month of December, we bought 74 total units. I bought a trailer park in Ohio and then 64 units in Baton Rouge. And the depreciation on the apartment buildings came back 600 grand. We did a cost seg. So it cost me 20 grand, but we're going to save 600 grand in taxes on the depreciation. I haven't gotten the trailer park one back, but I think that the trailer park percentage wise is going to be better because I think it's 39 and a half years.
Can you explain that a little bit for people to understand that? Because like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a
So-
lot of tax savings in buying real estate.
Yeah, so a book I always advise people to read is Tax Free Wealth by Tom Wright. And what he does, whether you agree with this on the macro or not, he advises you to look at the IRS more as like a partner than somebody that's stealing from you. I think that could be argued if you looked at inflation and the
Interesting.
Fed.
Right.
But I think it's actually a good framework, like a mental construct, because the point that he's making is that the government identifies things that they need and they understand that they're slow.
Right.
So they put out tax breaks for all the people that want to hustle, all their A players, and they say, hey, if you buy an apartment building and you provide housing, which is something this country needs,
Yep.
then we will allow you to go in and depreciate the property and put it against your taxes, against your cash flow on the property, but not just the cash flow. If the depreciation were to pass, let's say you cash flowed $100,000 on real estate,
Right.
but your total depreciation was, let's say, $150,000. You could take that extra $50,000 and then go put it against your income in another business, or your total income of all your businesses.
Yep.
So they're saying, hey, we need housing. We need you to either go build it or buy it and maintain it so our people have a place to stay,
Right.
so we can have jobs, so the economy can grow.
Yep.
We'll partner with you and give you this tax break if you do it, because the government's going to be slower than the private sector. They're not going to be as efficient.
So, which kind of what you're saying is like they're putting economic incentives
Yeah.
in front out and just let the fish bite for it.
Absolutely. They let the
Interesting.
players play ball. And this is like why guys like Trump don't want people to see his taxes. It's not because he broke the law.
Yeah.
It's because he knows the game.
Yep.
And he does what he has to do. And a cost segregation study is an accelerated. So they'll go in and they'll break it down by window, by appliance, by hot water heater, all those things to speed that process up.
Yeah.
So you can get the maximum out of the property, and either you can exit or hold. Now, a lot of people like to buy, borrow, die. So let's say Trump buys a building in downtown Miami for $10 million, and that property goes up in value another $10 million.
10
let's say.
million. That's, yeah.
Let's say he wants to borrow against that additional equity, 75% loan to value of whatever the equity is. So he can pull his 7.5 million out or 8 million out. And instead of selling the building, which that would have been profit, and
Right.
paying 30%, he can borrow it at a very, very low rate of interest and live off of it and literally die and trust it off to his kids. And he just kicks that can down the road.
Loaned income is an income.
Absolutely. Especially when you're compared against the tax rate.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
So if you're going to pay capital gains versus that loaned income, go ahead.
The richest Americans, they live off of borrowing off their stocks or borrowing off of equity or borrowing off of real estate and stuff. I mean, like Warren Buffett himself, anytime he needs cash, he has like a special card. He has a special little black card he has, where he just borrows off of one share of Berkshire Hathaway, which is like damn near almost $250,000 for a stock. He gets 80% LTV value off of that. No, he pays no taxes. The man doesn't pay, really almost pays no. I mean, he famously says, "My maid pays more taxes than I do."
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
and that upsets people. But they're sitting there angry and mad while they're watching Netflix.
Yeah.
What they don't understand is, like, and that's another thing about banking in general, is that he's borrowing on a stock. Let's say I would do that on some of my real estate.
Right.
Well, one thing that I think people really misunderstand is that a stock or crypto or real estate or a business even, that's just the vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
The structure of how money works outside of the vehicle is pretty much in a lot of cases the same.
Yep.
You know, you can borrow, he can borrow against the stocks at Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah.
I can borrow against my real estate. You know, people can borrow against their accounts receivable sometimes. I mean, which is not a good idea, but I mean,
Right.
people can do these things, right? So
There's markets all over the world.
oh yeah. I think they call it factoring in construction, where
Right.
you can borrow against your AR. Not a good idea for anybody that's watching, I don't think.
Yeah.
But you can do these things, right? And I think that's super interesting. But to answer your question, interest rates, like particular in this situation. So he wants 3.5 million for this 60 unit park deal, right? Well, it's got a value add in it. So there's 12 lots that he's not utilizing and some land that we can kind of develop and put more trailers on.
Okay.
So the way we looked at it, we underwrote the deal and was like, listen, the net operating income, which is basically the profit, expenses minus income. They call it the NOI, net operating
Right.
income. It's a fancy word for profit, a real estate word, right? It was good. It was strong. I think he was sitting on like a 10 cap. It was pretty strong.
Damn, that's a
but
good one.
the debt service, because of where the interest rates are, it fucked it. Fucked the deal. So we said, look, man, you're either going to have to come off the purchase price because of the debt service, or you're going to have to hold the financing. So he's going to hold us at 6% interest only.